Hello, this is Diana from thisisdiana.com. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Design Your Life with Beauty. I'm so excited to be here right now with you in this moment to discuss with you a couple of things. One is just finished publishing and making the book live on sleep and dreams, your sleep sweet spot. And this book is a labor of love and a labor of pleasure and a labor of a lot of research. This book is for day people, night owls, and shift sleepers. So it talks about things that some other experts on sleep speak about, but also on things that are not being spoken about in the dream sleep expert community. And this is specifically different sleep schedules, why they occur, and how you can get the sleep that we all need and the sleep that you need specifically, regardless of what your schedule currently is. And very, very importantly, if you're having sleep issues, regardless of your sleep cycle, if it is having anything to do with trauma that has occurred a long time ago, trauma that has recently occurred, specific types of trauma that have led to chronic conditions and conditions that are still affecting you to this day, that is affecting the quality of your sleep. Because for some reason, and this is the topic of today's show, somehow our society at this current moment has forgotten how to sleep well, how to sleep fully, or what even sleep is. And this is my pleasure and my job to talk about this subject. I know this personally, as I have mentioned in previous podcasts and blogs at thisisdiana.com and here, that I myself have had tremendous sleep issues my whole life. Whether I thought I was nocturnal, I really had something called non-24, which is when your sleep cycle changes all the time. At first you're a morning person, then you're an afternoon person, then you're an evening person, and then you're completely a night person, and it just shifts forward and forward and forward, and it turns out that you don't have a 24-hour schedule. And for some whatever reason, it is now, thank goodness, becoming more of a serious topic of research, because we are realizing it's not such a rare disease after all. It is the advent of our current lives, the technology, the way we live, the stressors, the amount of cataclysms and traumas. So not only are we going to talk about a little bit of each of these subjects, but we're going to have a question and answer session of real questions people are asking about sleep and dreams. And in just today's particular episode, it's about sleep specifically. But I'm going to talk about dreams like crazy, because dreams are crucial, whether you remember them or not, whether you believe they occur or not, whether you believe they're just a waste of time or noise, whether you believe your soul is traveling. Dreams are essential. But first, let's start with a little introduction to your sleep sweet spot. So as I mentioned a few moments ago, this book has been a pleasure to write, but incredibly challenging and hardcore research based. And I did have incredible support in making it come to fruition. And I want to thank those individuals very, very much for their support. One of them is Kenneth Roman from Ogilvy and Mathers, now retired, and also a prolific writer. The other one is Anthony Scaramucci. I thank him so much, from Skybridge organization. The other one is Vincent Mussolino. And of course, the fourth one is Marilyn Goldberg. Treasures in my life, absolute treasures in my life, have believed in me and my work when I felt completely isolated and alone. So I thank you from my heart and my soul for making all of this happen. So let's get to the book. You will find, and this is going to be very brief because I want you to know that the book is available on Amazon, on my website, Google Play, Kobo from Rakuten if you use that. Any which way you want it. You can have a physical copy or an ebook copy, a Kindle copy as well. And this book is not only a book in of itself, but it's going to have, and it does have, a workbook, a planner, a journal, and tons of supporting material to help you through your process. Because it's not just about sleep and dreams. It's about self-care, healing, and being whole in general throughout your day, whether it's 24 hours or a little longer or a little shorter. So your sleep sweet spot has three main parts. The three main parts are about sleep and dreams and what we know about it or don't know about it, according to mainstream society, historical records, and scientific research. Also, social science research, anthropologists, sociologists, psychologists, as well as neurologists, doctors, people that work with dreams specifically. There could be clinicians, there could be spiritual workers and spiritual healers, hypnotists, people that are credible, that take their work serious and really absolutely care about themselves and their clients. So the book discusses this. What is sleep? Why do we need it? Why it's important? The many questions about sleep and dreams. And please note that in a previous episode I talked about this. I talked about all the questions, well, a lot of the questions. The questions are endless that people ask and have asked from the beginning of time that we've been able to communicate. Well, why did this happen? How long do I need? Why does this happen when I sleep? Why do some people need more sleep than others? The list goes on and on. So we talk a little bit about that, what the questions are, the typical questions. And you probably may have one that we don't even address or we haven't even thought about yet. I always encourage you to please contact me. Contact me here or at thisisdiana.com. Ask away. This is what I'm here for. The other part of the book itself is dreams themselves. The dreams. This experience that we have while sleeping, whether we remember it or not. But people do realize, researchers, scientists, regular people, all kinds of people on the planet, realize that something happens during the cycles of sleep. Something we talk about in the sleep and dream section. We sleep in cycles and in segments. And during each part, something happens to our brains and our bodies. Something different and something complex. We know a lot about it and we're still learning about it. During a certain section of sleep, a pretty deep section where we're in deep sleep, we start to dream. And during this segment of our dream cycle, incredible things happen. We reach and we enter a different state of consciousness. We are aware of something. We may not know it at the moment, but we know it when we wake up and we remember, even if it's glimpses of it. Or even if you don't remember it and you have a sleep companion, that person may let you know that you were sleep talking or something was happening during that cycle or even during other cycles, because dreams don't always occur in one particular cycle. They just happen to primarily occur during a specific cycle called rapid eye movement, otherwise known as REM. Don't worry about remembering this. You're not going to get quizzed on it yet. So the dreams section talks about this particular phenomenon. What is it? A lot of people still believe that it's just junk, noise, just brain junk. There's nothing junk about our brains. There might be things we don't understand, but our brains are working. They're miraculous. There's just incredible biochemical, mental, spiritual thing that we've been endowed with that gives us a sense of self and consciousness. And animals sleep as well. We know this. And other organisms go into a state of dormancy. This state of rest, relaxation, restoration, and dormancy is always the opportunity for our body to start healing, for our minds and our psychological state to start healings. But what do the dreams mean? Do they have any significance in our waking life? Or it just happens during our dream life and it stays there, wherever there is? Where does it happen? Is it a mental state? Is it a spatial state? This is all the stuff that we need to talk about and discover and uncover. Many, many people in our world, in our current society, people you may not be aware of, that are famous, well-known writers and screenwriters, scientists, researchers, and artists have had their dreams be their inspiration for their projects that we read today or learn about or understand, whether it's a movie or a book like Frankenstein. The person, the scientist, the researcher, the dreamer, the writer, dreamt something that somehow they had to put from the dream state into the waking state in some form that they probably even struggled to share, and may not even have shared that it came from a dream until much later. But fortunately, they have. So there's something going on in our dreams that is affecting not only our individual state of mind and our waking state, but the world collectively. Culturally and individually, dreams affect us. We can work with dreams. It's called dream work. Some people have called it dream analysis. There are many, very, very ways we can work with dreams. It's usually astounding and enlightening, challenging at times, frustrating at times, specifically if it's scary dreams, nightmares, night terrors, or experiences that we don't understand. But there is something going on that is so worthy of discussion and exploration. So that's the dream section, just in a nutshell. And then the third section is the part where we talk about finding that sweet sleep spot for you specifically. What works for you doesn't work for your niece or your uncle or your nephew or your neighbor or the person down the street or person across the country or the world. You need to find the schedule that works for you. And we talk about this, I talk about this not only in the first sections when I talk about sleep itself and the cycles, but we talk about it here as well when it comes to creating a specific ritual and sanctuary. So let's dig into that a little deeper, shall we? So, what is that sleep sweet spot we're talking about so much? Well, it talks about understanding you and yourself and your own specific sleep habits, how you're feeling in general. Are you a deep restorative sleeper, whether you sleep 4 hours or 14 hours? And believe me, people need different amounts of sleep. So let's not judge, because there's a reason why some people need more and some people need less. And what is it that we can do through our waking moments to ensure that we are taking our body seriously enough to nourish it, care for it, whether you're in trauma, in pain, in crisis, or just in general everyday busyness? What can we do to train ourselves, our minds, our bodies, our spirits, that it's time to wind down, that it's time to slow down, that we are now going to reach that very, very essential state of rest that we need to then awake later, have energy, have life force, have mental force to think clearly and make proper decisions and help ourselves and help others. It's so crucial to create this thing I call rituals. And rituals are going to be a complete other section that I am so excited to be able to share with you. I didn't create the topic of rituals, but I certainly have embraced it, and I'll share with you why in another episode coming very soon. But rituals as a habit are routines on fire. They are empowered routines, and they could be used to, of course, to sleep, but they can also be used to create a state of energy as well, or a state of focus. People that are ready to engage on a project, let's say a work project, they also create certain rituals before they get ready, whether we know it or not. Sometimes they just become thoughtless habits. They may work, they may not work. We don't want these to be thoughtless habits, because thoughtless habits are not mindful, and a lot of errors can occur, and we can make a lot of mistakes, and not all habits are healthy. What we want to do is create mindful rituals. And of course, if they become second nature, you're still aware and conscious of what you're doing, so you can make changes accordingly. So that's why it's so important that it's rituals, not just mindless habits. And a lot of this has to do with, specifically the sleep sweet spot, is the wind down time. what to do with your senses, your physical senses and your mental senses, to start indicating and signaling to your body, to your mind, to your spirit, that it's time to allow yourself, give yourself the permission to be able to rest, and rest peacefully, and rest soundly and deeply. This ranges from diet, what you eat, to the kind of movement you do while you're awake, to, and it's just very important, environmental and your space design. This is a very, very, very important aspect that people sometimes take for granted or don't even think about. Is it safe? Is it comfortable? Do you have enough time? Is it quiet? Does it smell okay or clean or hygienic, or not any smell that bothers you one way or the other? Is it soft, hard, texture as far as your sheets or where you sleep? Those environmental factors are important. Do you have clutter or disorganization or dirt or toxicity in your space? And not all of these are equal to each other. You can have clutter, but it could still be a clean space. But when you have chaos, that's a whole different story. You have unpredictability, you have danger, you have the aspect of not being safe, and that will affect your sleep quality, your ability to rest, your ability to stay asleep. And you'll have the ability or the inability to wake up restored. You won't be able to wake up restored and peaceful and otherwise happy and engaged with life. And that leads to a lot of problems that don't allow us to heal from things that have occurred to us during our waking time and our waking moment. You need to be able to sleep soundly to heal, and the healing in turn is produced by sleep. Now, if you have a condition that prevents you from sleeping, the condition occurs, and that's the cause of your inability to sleep. That's something that I talk about as well. So it may not be sleep in of itself that's causing the issue. But for example, it could be that you had an injury or an operation or an illness that the pain, the anxiety, the anguish of it is causing you to have issues falling, staying asleep. We'll talk about that as well, because that is in my book, and it will be on the course, and it will be in the journal, and it will be in the report, and all subsequent material that you can have access to through my website, thisisdiana.com. So, or the book itself. So we also talk about something as the environment itself, as far as it being physical and mental, the spiritual aspects of the environment. This is something that you need to take a deep breath, because a lot of people have resistance to, because they don't realize how crucial it is. So we're going to take a collective deep breath, if you wish, joining me, and we're going to talk about the mental, spiritual aspects of creating the sweet sleep spot right now. Now, don't worry, we're going to make this brief, because I have tons and tons of information for you available in the near future. But in the meantime, let's get into the introduction of what I mean by space clearing, energy clearing, the basics. This is something that people don't think about that often until it starts affecting them and they start noticing it. Because it might be affecting us, but they may not be paying attention to it or make the connection. Or even if they do, they might downplay it. They might share it with somebody, and that person might say, oh, you're being silly. That's nonsense. Please. The brain and the body needs to sleep. Your environment doesn't matter. Spiritual woo-woo, blue, 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 blue. And you're still going to have issues because you're not resolving it, and you're not even taking it into consideration. If it's something that doesn't work, after you've taken it into consideration, done the proper, critical, thoughtful, heart, soulful research on it, then you can discard it if you feel you want to. I mean, you're the boss. But I'm going to tell you that I do believe, obviously, that there's something to the energy in of itself. Not just the physical energy, the spiritual energy as well, the mental energy. And just think about when you walk into a place, it might look absolutely stunning and gorgeous, but it might still give you the creeps. It might still make you feel depressed, or it might still make you feel anxious, or it might make you feel like physically sick, like nauseous, and there's no reason. There's no bad smell, there's no bad appearance or texture in it, there's no bad people in there, or there may be. or there may be. Because, again, everything's interconnected. And might be something you might be sensing just on the edges of your physical senses to the realm of intuition and psychic opening that is signaling your physical senses. This place doesn't feel good. And it's a place that you are going to dwell in for any specific amount of time, that you live in, that you work in, that you have to be in for whatever reason. It could be a shared social space, but you're there for whatever reason, and you have to be there. Then it's important for us to know whether we're safe and comfortable and why. If possible, if at all possible, to remove yourself from the space. Some spaces we can't leave, like in an airplane or an elevator or a ship at sea. But there are still things we can do to calm down. That's for another subject in another show. But think about that. When you can, and you can make an adjustment to the space and the change by either removing yourself from it or making a change in the space itself, that's what we're talking about. Cleansing, clearing, changing, adjusting, and manipulating, and making it just so. And when I talk about this, I talk about principles that have been around for many, many years, decades, if not centuries. I'm talking about energy cleansing has been around from the beginning of time. Shaman, the oldest spiritual belief on earth that we know of at this moment is shamanism. Not any other religion, shamanism. But that's one particular example. Other examples are examples like feng shui that have become a lot more popular and a lot more familiar with a lot more people, but still people don't know what it is. And they might do it without realizing they're doing it. And that is the art of placement, of placing objects and substances and the flow of energy in a specific room, a specific building and edifice, or a specific outdoor space as well. And that changes the shift of the energy depending on what's in it, what's not in it as well. So that's what we mean by space cleansing and cleaning. It also includes rituals. And again, I'm going to talk about rituals. So whatever you think rituals are, don't hold on too tight to it, that belief, because rituals in the sense that I'm discussing it, it's a very specific yet open, as contradictory as it might sound, system. It's a system of knowing and creating and manifesting the way you want your space and you to be. It's not just the space itself, it's your body as well. So space clearing, space cleansing, space manipulation are all so crucial to creating the sleep sweet spot by organizing it or putting things in a way that at least makes you comfortable or the person you're sharing the space with, and makes it safe and makes it hygienic. And I'm not talking about sleep hygiene the way you hear it in the popular culture. I don't use that term. I use sleep routine, healthy sleep ritual, and of course sleep spot. So that's in a nutshell and in a summary what I discuss in my work as a sleep science coach, of course, as in my book, and as somebody who deeply cares about space and somebody that has studied psychology and environmental spaces and feng shui. So I hope that this has given you a little bit of insight into what your sleep sweet spot is and how you can achieve it. Now, what we're going to do is talk about 3 real questions that people have asked very quickly and see if these sound familiar to you or you know somebody who has asked them and how we can answer them. Let's get to it. Okay, the first question I'm going to ask is from a person called J.A. I'm just going to use their initials. And they want to know, how does temperature impact sleep habits? Great question. I get a lot of really, really good questions here. I also get questions that are a little silly, but this is not one of the silly ones. This is a good one. Temperature impacts it tremendously. And when you say sleep habits, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by this, if you're the one that asked this question, but let me try to interpret it the best I can. Temperature affects your ability to sleep well. So, if you want to make it a habit and a ritual to incorporate the right temperature, then I would say you are on the right track of creating the right environment to be able to sleep more comfortably when it comes to your body temperature in comparison to your space temperature. And the temperature does vary between person to person. Some people need it toasty and warm, while others need it to be cool. And there is an average, of course, and the average is attained by researchers asking X amount of people what is their temperature that they can sleep in, that they feel most comfortably. And the temperature is like between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. But that doesn't mean that you're comfortable at that temperature. You might be a very hot sleeper, or someone that needs it cooler, much cooler, like freezing cool. So it depends on you, your health, your state of mind, where you're sleeping, with who you're sleeping. If you sleep with animals or somebody sleeps with you in the same room or in the same bed. But on average, people need it to be slightly cooler in the room. Slightly cooler than, like, obviously a regular day where, you might be comfortable somewhere outside at 80 degrees. It's really, your body becomes quite uncomfortable if it's that warm. And there are reasons for that. There are biological reasons for that, and there are health reasons for that, as I said earlier. A woman that's, reaching a certain stage in her life, and that she's in her 40s or 50s, might need it to be cooler in her room than a young man that's in his 30s, and for different physiological purposes. So that's a general question. So I would say to this person, I would need, the answer is yes, temperature impacts sleep habits and your sleep quality, and I would need to talk to you and discuss with you, okay, so what does that mean for you? What do you need? What does your body need? When do you feel comfortable? What is the temperature that your specific body needs? Okay, another question is by MW, and he wants to know, or she wants to know, why does getting 8 hours of sleep feel so bad? Well, we would need a lot more information for this. You just can't just answer, well, because, X, Y, Z. I would need to ask you, what do you mean? What do you mean by feel so bad? Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? How do you know you're getting exactly 8 hours of sleep? Are you entering the sleep stage and aware of when you enter the first stages of sleep straight through and know that it's exactly 8 hours? What are you feeling that feels so bad? Are you waking up the next day with a headache, tired, fatigued, brain fog, nauseous, uncomfortable, nervous, anxious? And have you tried sleeping a little more or a little less? What is it about the 8 hours that's so significant? Is it because you've heard that that's what we need? Those are the things that I would ask you if you were asking me that question, because we need to know in order to get to the answer that works for you. The third question we're going to ask is, why do I feel so tired all the time after getting even a good night's sleep? This question is very common, and you'll probably hear it again a few more times, 200 more times, from different people and in different variations. You might even be asking the same thing. And the thing is that, again, depending on the individual, I would ask you, what do you mean by tired? Explain to me what tired by definition means to you. What do you mean by a good night's sleep? Are you even a night person? I mean, a day person? Maybe you should be sleeping different hours, different times during the day. Maybe you're not even a night person or a day person. How many hours are you sleeping? And what's happening during your waking hours? What are you eating? Are you sick? Do you know if you're ill? Have you seen a physician, multiple physicians, doctors? How are you feeling mentally, psychologically? Is anything happening in your life right now that's causing you to feel tired and anxious, something that's taking your life energy because you're preoccupied with something? Are you working a lot of hours? Are you not working? Are you working sometimes? Are you having relationship issues? All kinds of things can be causing to you feeling fatigued or tired after what you believe is a good night's sleep or a good amount of sleep. So this is how you start to unravel the mysteries of it. So I can't sit here and tell you, well, you're so tired because, you're lazy. I really don't think lazy and sleep are two things that should be used together. People don't even understand what they mean by the word lazy most of the time. So without being judgmental with yourself or with others, it's important to ask these questions. What exactly am I asking? What are you asking? And like that, the person, the science, the researcher, the sleep coach, the doctor, the therapist can understand you better, because a lot of people aren't familiar with a lot of the reasons people can't sleep well. They do not know. They think they know. They might say, well, because you're not sleeping enough, or because you're sleeping too much, or you're taking this pill, you're not taking that pill, or, yeah. So we need to really dig in deeper and see what works for you in the healthiest way possible, so you can sleep the best you can and be awake the best you can. So I hope, it is my trust, that this has been useful as far as, again, generally introducing some of the very, very, very common topics that we deal with when trying to find our sleep sweet spot. And I encourage you to please check my website and the info center for tons of other topics related to this. For example, again, we're going to talk about rituals, and we do talk about rituals. When I say we, I say me. And there are tons of materials that we need to understand about trauma and how trauma affects us, what trauma is, the different versions of trauma, and how that trauma rears its head and causes us all kinds of problems. And we talked about this again in another podcast. I encourage you to check it as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to thank you for joining me and sharing these precious moments. Please feel free to share this with somebody that may need it. And I welcome your comments and your suggestions at thisisdiana.com or in social media at thisisdiana.navarro, and that's on Instagram. And basically you can find everything on my website and go from there. So until next time, I wish you peace, restoration, and wholeness. And thank you again for joining me.